All right, hello and welcome back. Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this on a Thursday afternoon. A first-timer of the Washington Post, a former ATLian like myself, Michael Lee, longtime NBA writer and reporter. Very, very happy to have you on the program, Michael. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. What do you miss most about Atlanta?
My friends, once I graduated from college, I lived in Atlanta for the first 6 years, and a lot of my friends from college lived there. A lot of friends from my hometown that moved there, and so I was young and had a bit of a social life and had friends that I hung out with, and I stay in contact with them, but I just don't see them that often. And I have family down there too, so I basically just miss the people more than anything. Because now when I go back, it doesn't look the way it was when I was there, and that was a long time ago. But I get nostalgic more about just the friendships and the parties and everything else that I did in my early 20s.
You miss the traffic at all?
Traffic wasn't that bad. I intentionally lived in Smyrna, and so I could get right to downtown on 20 in a relatively short time. And if the highway was backed up, I could take South Atlanta Road into the city and not have any problem. So I had thought it all out. Like, how can I avoid traffic? And if I knew I had to go out to a friend who lived in a different part of the town, I would just leave early.
Yeah, or leave late. Like, there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
You're kind of trapped. Like, there's a certain window where it's like, hey, can we meet at like, nope. That window is passed. I'll see you at like 9, or I'll see you at 4. Those are the 2 times I can see you. I'm not built for it anymore. Being here in Knoxville and grad school at UT and going back every now and then back home, I go through the traffic and I'm like, I'm just not built for this anymore.
What high school did you go to?
Parkview.
Okay, yeah, I covered high schools for a long time.
Okay.
So yeah, Brookwood, the rival,
yes,
right?
That's our rival. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those games, and I remember I'm gonna date myself here. But when I was covering high schools there, the top player at Parkview was Jeff Rancour.
Yep.
Who was an incredible baseball player. He went on to play in the majors for a while, but he was probably a better football player. He probably could have gone on and been a pretty good whatever he wanted to do. He chose baseball, but he was pretty special.
I was gonna say he had an offer from Clemson, so he chose baseball over football.
He did.
Baseball. Yeah.
And his when I interviewed him, his favorite school at the time, oddly enough, was Ole Miss. That was a college that I don't know why. Like, he had like Ole Miss, all kind of stuff like in his room, and so he was big into Ole Miss during that stretch. I mean, obviously he didn't go to college, but he was like, every game you went to see him play, he did something. He was almost like a mythological figure in some ways, because he would make these amazing plays on the football field, and then he always would hit like the game-winning home run or something crazy. So if you could script out a high school athletic career, I would put Jeff Rancour's up against just about anybody's.
In covering high school football in Georgia, it's probably the same in Texas. I mean, I still go to a lot here and cover it here in East Tennessee. It's just different. Like, it's not the same kind of players. It's a different environment. And when you grow up around it, you kind of take it for granted. But you look around, like the Jeff Rancours of the world and guys like that. I mean, just seeing Darius Walker at Buford. I mean, you can go up and down the list of just certain dudes who were just clearly going to go to SEC Power 5 schools, and they're just everywhere. Like, certain schools just had 4 or 5 guys that are going to play on Sundays, and you just don't see that in most states.
My cousin played at Sandy Creek with Calvin Johnson.
Okay.
So I would go to his games and just laugh at how much he looked like a pro in high school. Like, he was so much bigger and faster than everybody else. And he had I don't remember the quarterback's name, but he was just throw the ball in the air and Calvin would still get it.
My parents remember watching Quincy Carter when he played at Southwest DeKalb, and he was so good.
Those are some good teams too. There was so much talent in Georgia during that time, and I was fortunate enough to sort of pick like the Super 11 for the AJC, and it was always tough, trying to figure out who the best players were, because there were so many, and all of these guys had great had offers to go to different schools, and I was always amazed that there would be somebody who would wind up becoming a huge star out of Georgia that we just overlooked because their coach didn't do enough promotion for him, or we just didn't recognize what they were doing at their schools, or didn't think that it was going to translate to being, a great college football player or in the NFL. So yeah, it was a fun time though. I enjoyed traveling all the corners of the state of Georgia and finding talents all over the place. And I look back on that period in my career fondly.
It's so much fun. I don't know if I'll ever quit it fully. I enjoy Friday Night Lights. I mean, it's a lot of football in the fall. If you're covering NFL and college and high school, that's just a lot. And with a wife
Yeah.
now, there's only so much that you can actually.
Yeah, so I'm saying you
Yeah,
could do it when I was in my early 20s, right out of
yeah.
college, and because I would spend my Friday nights at a high school game, and
Hmm.
then my Saturdays at a college football game, either at UGA or Georgia Tech, and sometimes I would go on the road, and I used to joke that like I would go to games and say Rome, Georgia,
Hmm.
and then the next day I'd be in Athens, and I'm like, look at me going to the pillars of civilization in back-to-back nights. So
I mean, it's funny. I might be in Athens, Tennessee tomorrow for a playoff game, and the Athens, Tennessee head football coach is coming on after here. But yeah, no, I still love it. And be honest, it's funny, Michael, because I think we probably crossed paths when I was not to date you or make you feel old a little
don't
bit here.
worry, I am old, so I can accept it.
Well, I think we were probably on the sidelines together. I was just a little kid, so I was like the kid, even middle school, when Frank Core was in high school, senior. I was patrolling the sidelines and just like
Oh
taking
wow,
notes and watching up close, like with Jeff Witt and Dustin Wade and all those dudes that like I was definitely around, watching it up close and all that kind of stuff for many years. And
cool.
yeah, it's just funny that we were probably on the same sideline. And you didn't know it.
Well, yeah, with yeah, I mean, I feel bad sometimes when I like, oh man, I covered like I remember when Sean McVay
Mm.
wound up
Where's he, Marist?
becoming he went to Marist, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I saw him play and did not register that this guy was going to be a Super Bowl winning coach, but that's the thing, like you just cover so many guys and you cover so many games, and some guys stand out and some guys that may not stand out that day. You watch them play, and they're out here, hoisting the Lombardi Trophy.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of hoisting trophies, the Milwaukee Bucks have been quite good out of the gate. Giannis obviously being fantastic, doing a lot of this without Chris Middleton, which is pretty interesting. Me being a Hawks guy, watched Hawks Bucks intently, and that didn't go well for the Bucks. But that was weird because Trey didn't play, and Dejounte was just unbelievable in the mid range, and they didn't really have an answer for him there. But it happens. Road game. They're not going to be 82-0 and all that.
Yeah,
But
no
in
team's
your
doing that.
estimation, Michael, why have the Bucks been so good right out of the gate?
Leadership and continuity. It starts at top with Giannis. I mean, everyone is, I think, universally accepts that he's the best player in basketball. I don't know if there's much debate anymore. At least there shouldn't be, based on his consistency and his greatness and just the way he impacts the game on both ends of the floor. Defensively, he can shut you down, in so many ways. And then on the offensive end, he just puts so much pressure on the defense. So his sheer presence makes a difference. And I remember I went to the home the Sixers home opener against the Bucks, and the one thing that stood out to me is that Giannis used to be so aggressive, and
Mm.
he made every possession went all out and just went hard, and like that is a skill. A lot of people talk about oh, he's got a handle, or he's got a jump shot, or he's got this. But the skill that stands out the most is just your ability to go hard all the time. And if you have that ability, you have that motor in you, you're gonna rise to greatness. And that's why Giannis is who he is, because he would just go so hard, and no one can really, like, you playing that long, that many minutes on the floor, you get tired, you get fatigued. And if you got a guy out there who's relentless, eventually you're going to break. He's going to break you, and that's what Giannis has done, throughout his career, and that's why he's had so much success. But the one thing that stood out to me was just this year is how slowly the game seems to be coming to him, and how he realizes that he doesn't have to go hard every possession. He just has to pick his spots on when he needs to go and when he needs to pick it up and push it, because his presence on the court elevates everybody else around him. And that's the one thing that I think makes the Bucks the favorite to win it all, because they're doing this without Chris Middleton, mainly because Drew Holiday's playing great basketball, and all their role players understand what they're supposed to do. Brook Lopez knows that he's there to protect the rim and stretch the floor for Giannis. He does that. Wesley Matthews, he knows he's there to defend and shoot. You go down the list, their entire roster. There's not any confusion about what a guy's supposed to do when he gets out there. They all know what they're supposed to do, and they all know that Giannis is the key to it all. And he just brings a spirit to that locker room. He's just a positive guy. He's got an incredible attitude and approach to the game. I think that the players know that on a consistent basis, he's going to bring it. And so if you got your best player bringing it on both ends and you don't bring it yourself, then something's wrong with you. And nobody wants to be the oddball in that squad. And that's why they're playing so great.
Do you think he's the same as the kid who came into the league, or do you think he's evolved in a significant way, personality-wise?
He's definitely evolved. I mean, how can you be in
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere 10 years and not change?
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has realized that all shucks kind of cuteness that everyone loved, the smoothie loving guy.
Mm-hmm.
He can still, use that charm to sort of endear himself to fans, but he's cutthroat.
Yeah, kind
He's
of like
ruthless.
Joel a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but he's probably more so because he
Mm.
does it with a smile, but he always keeps that smile. He doesn't really cross the line
Mm-hmm.
in ways that maybe Joel does, in terms of shouting and screaming and maybe losing his cool.
Mm-hmm.
He does it in a smooth manner, like he's relentless, and then after the game he might beat somebody and say, oh, but I'm not the best, Steph Curry's the best or Kevin Durant's the best, and in his mind he's like, I want to destroy all of these guys, but I'm also going to butter them up in the process, and know that in the end I'm going to destroy them, and that's what I think is what has allowed him to ascend to the heights that he's ascended, because he's done it in a way that you didn't expect, but um, all of that fire is in him. This is a guy who really came up the hard way, in Greece, being a undocumented, citizen, and having to hustle on the street, and just having that drive to know, like, every day you just got to do whatever you can just to survive each day. He brings that intensity, to the court still, even when he gets all the money, even when he gets all the accolades and all the praise, he hasn't lost that drive or that fire, and that's why I respect him, and I like him so much, because he just has this incredible spirit and attitude that a lot of guys that have reached his status would be kind of jaded, and they wouldn't really come with it the way he does. But of course, he's matured and he's changed in different ways, but he's still the same guy who feels like he has something to prove, and I love that about him.
I love that he's gotten to the point now in year 10 where he's like, I'm going to force a turnover late to get my brother in a game. And that's just how this is going to be. Like, there's no conversation. Like, that's what's happening here. And
yeah, or he's going to say, my brother's going to be on the team.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
Make
And
sure that roster spot is reserved for him. Like, if we can, make make Udonis Haslam, a lifetime Heat player just on the team. My brother's gonna be there too, so I need him, and y'all need me. So let's make me happy. Make sure I got my support, with me everywhere I go, and because I think people don't talk about Thanasis a lot. Like he truly is a motivator for him. Like there are times when you can see him on the sideline, and he can calm Giannis in a way I don't think anybody else can. He can motivate him and charge him, tell him when he needs to go. And I don't know if coaches can get through him the way his brother can. And it was funny, like that game that I saw the other night. I mean, he hypes him up, but then he picked his nose, like like in the middle of the game. He's like, "Oh, hold on, man, you can't go out there with that on you. Like, you can't have crusty mucus right there. Let me pluck that so you look good while you're out there." That's the only stuff, like that stuff only a brother would do for you, right? That's not something that Coach Bud's not gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, Giannis, get some tissue, like wipe that off." No. And I think that having his presence there is something that is kind of underrated in terms of his influence on that team.
It's interesting too that he's year 10, already back-to-back MVPs, but he's in, I think, the LeBron zone now, where, like you said, it's just kind of understood that he's the best player in basketball, but that doesn't mean you're going to win MVP. Where there's like some voter fatigue now, where I wonder, even with the Bucks, they look like a team that should be the number one seed in the East, right? If the injuries aren't like doing this without Chris, they'll eventually get him back, and it seems like they're well on their way to gobbling up a bunch of regular season wins and being number one. I just wonder, what he has to do, because you look around the league, they're not going 3 straight to Jokic. The Warriors
No,
are struggling. It's not going to be one of the Warriors, most likely. You look at it and you're like, okay, LeBron and AD are definitely out.
out.
Giannis is going to be like kind of forcing his hand where he's like, we're the best team. We're winning the most games. I'm the best player on the best team again. Like, you have to do it because, like, I think for so many years, folks were looking around trying not to give it to LeBron while also saying that, like, clearly LeBron is the best player in
Mm-hmm.
basketball, but like, we just can't keep giving him this award every year. We want to grow the
Well,
sport.
I
Like,
will I will say I beg to differ on that one.
okay.
Yeah, because I remember in 2008
Mm,
during the Olympics, I was in China and I was watching that team every day. And to me, it was very clear who the best player in the world was. It was LeBron,
mm,
and he's been that guy. The fact that he had, say a 6-year run where there was no question who was the best.
mm,
I think that's legit. Now, when I look at all the MVPs that happened since his last one, 2013,
mm,
I can't look at anybody that won an MVP during that stretch and say that LeBron was more deserving.
mm,
I just can't. 2014, what Kevin Durant did without Russell Westbrook and with Oklahoma City, he was the real MVP that year. 2015, Steph Curry, what he did in elevating the Warriors, from a team that people didn't expect much from to being the top seed, winning 67 games. He was the MVP. The
mm,
next year, he was unanimous. They won 73 games. That's not going to be LeBron's year. 2017, it was a horse race between Russell Westbrook and James Harden. LeBron wasn't in that picture. 2018, LeBron had a great year, but it wasn't better than James Harden's year. And then you had Giannis, again, and he went back to back. 2020, people say that LeBron was right there. I didn't think it was even close.
mm.
You go back and look at the numbers that Giannis was providing, the all the analytics, every analytic you could look at. That was one of the greatest seasons that ever happened. As a matter of fact, his season statistically was better than I believe it was better than any year that LeBron had.
Hmm.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
His 2020 was better than LeBron's best year.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about one of the greatest players ever, someone who wants to be in the GOAT conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had a better year than that.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, LeBron should be. No, nope. Because I also look at it like this. What made the Lakers and what elevated the Lakers that year was
Mm-hmm.
not LeBron playing great. It was the arrival of Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, last
You
two
might be
years,
laying out how Luka wins MVP over Giannis this year.
and that's what I was getting to. This year, the only person that stands in Giannis's way is Luka,
Mm-hmm.
because of what he's doing without having, any kind of all-star teammate. The numbers that he's putting up, the load that he's asked to carry every night. I think that he's the only real challenger to Giannis through the first part of the season, and it's going to be fun to see how those guys duke it out. And but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too, because one thing that I think that people kind of haven't been paying attention to, the last American that I mentioned who won MVP
Mm.
was Harden,
Yeah.
and it might be a while before we get another one. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting
Mm.
to see how Giannis and Luka, battle. I mean, maybe a Tatum gets in the mix. Maybe John Morant gets in the mix. As the season progresses, you don't know what's going to happen with injuries and anything else.
Tatum
But
probably feels like the safest American bet over the next 2 to 3 years.
yeah, that
Yeah.
I would lean towards him, especially since he's been to the finals, and that
Mm-hmm.
when you reach that level and you win big in the postseason, that
And you can
elevates.
get to 30 points a game. Like, you can see the scoring and the longevity and
Yeah,
his
the role
positional
the role that
value.
the role that he's being asked to
Mm-hmm.
play in Boston, the fact that he's maturing, becoming a much more well-rounded player, and they're winning. They're going to be a contending team for a long time, so he'll be in the running too. But I say right now, Luka's the guy that I'm looking at is the one who might be able to break through and continue this run of European players winning MVP in the NBA.
Absolutely. I don't think Victor Wembanyama helps this argument in the future. It's a lot of pressure on Mr. Henderson when he comes into the league to battle that one. Speaking of Kevin Durant a little bit and
Mhm.
just MVPs and stuff like that, he's playing great basketball right now. It seems like it's only a matter of time before that trade request gets brought back. I mean, what the Nets, I think 5-7 at this
Yeah,
point in the year. I think we can kind of, with just the current state of affairs with Brooklyn, they did the right thing in making Jacques Vaughn the permanent head coach, given the circumstances.
agreed.
And he's funny. Like I watch those press conferences. Like Jock seems like a really nice dude. So when you read the reports that like the locker room has responded to him and that there's more, it just seems like it's a happier environment and the guys are happier. And then you listen to him and it like it works. Where it's like even if
Yeah,
you're not there, like that makes sense. That makes sense that Jock Vaughn is connecting based on what we're seeing. And
the schedules
maybe
help too.
yeah, exactly. But you look at it and you're like, I look at the depth, I just don't see it. There's just so much
No,
that I don't see a path, even with a healthy Seth Curry, that they can get to where Kevin Durant would be happy. Like even if Kyrie comes back, I don't see that path. And the Nets kind of know internally that like you kind of need to move on. Like you kind of just need to turn the chapter. Like Harden's gone, Ben Simmons. Can you really keep waiting? And then you have the reports that KD might not want to keep waiting on Ben Simmons to get back to who he was.
yeah,
I don't
Simmons has
know.
been so
What
disappointing,
do you
man.
do? Like if you're Kevin Durant, do you wait it out? Do you risk more of your prime in Brooklyn, or do you go, look, I've done my time, but like we've got to part ways. Like
Well,
this is
I
it.
don't. Even though he's back playing, he's playing at an incredibly high level right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think his heart has ever really changed from where he wants to, from where that he wants out. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that, and he can't publicly say that, and he can't say, what other moves he would like for the team to make, because he's already kind of seen in a negative light because of his off season, and he doesn't want to disrupt what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that there's probably an agreement that was made, when he met with Josiah and Sean Marks, and they're like, hey, just ride it out with us. Let's see
Mm-hmm.
how it goes. If it goes south, we'll look to take care of you. Don't do anything publicly. Don't embarrass us. Don't make it more difficult than it is. Just go out there and be a pro. And if things aren't working out, we'll take care of you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how most organizations would do in this situation, because it's already out there that he's frustrated and that he's not happy with how things are going there. So I still think that he would like to play somewhere where he's going to be a champion. And the one thing that I've covered Kevin for a long time. I've known him since he's been in the league, and he's from the DC area, and I work at the Post, and so I've known him since for like 15, 16 years now. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I know that he knows that he's getting older, and that as great as he's playing, he can't be asked to carry that much of a load, the same load he's been asked to carry in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that people really understand or being fair to him that this guy came back from a ruptured Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
That's a career ender, especially for a guy in his 30s. But he's come back, and the numbers he's putting up, his field goal percentage, 3-point shooting, free throw, scoring, they're all higher than they were in OKC and Golden State, which
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't happen when you're 34 years old. But if he's going to win another championship, or if he's going to be in a situation where he can play for another championship, he he has to have a young player who is either on his level or capable of carrying his team on nights that he doesn't have it. Because it's just that's the nature of the way the NBA goes. Eventually, you get older and you just can't do it that way anymore. But I go back to all the great players that have won championships in their 30s, and you look at what they had. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, people put him in the GOAT conversation, right? He won 5 rings at the he won his last 5 rings playing with Magic Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
right? Magic was a young stud who came in there and elevated the Lakers the moment he got there, but he's an all-time great player, greatest point guard to ever play.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, my favorite player, my greatest player of all time. But he needed him to go that extra mile and start winning championships again. If you go back to Kareem, when he won his first championship, he won that with Oscar Robertson, who
Mm-hmm.
was in his 30s, and he needed to have Kareem for him to finally taste that glory. You look at LeBron, the last 2 titles that he won. Kyrie Irving had to play at a level that was close to him,
Mm-hmm.
when they won in 2016. Anthony Davis, those first 2 games against the Heat in the finals, he looked like he was going to be Finals MVP.
Yeah.
Like, so he had a young star that could carry him and
Powell and
elevate
Kobe
him.
too.
Powell and Kobe
Mm.
and Shaq.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to have somebody who is on the verge or coming up. You got to have young legs to help you,
And
reach
Brooklyn
that.
just doesn't have that.
Brooklyn doesn't have that star. I mean, you would hope that it would be a Ben Simmons. Like
Yeah.
he's a guy that, number one pick, multiple time All-Star, defensive player of the year candidate. If he can play at his potential, then I think that's somebody you would hope can help extend KD's career to where he's not being asked to get you 30 a night. He can do it, but it won't be as impactful if he doesn't have anybody else that's on his level that can perform at a high level. And the inconsistencies of Kyrie, the fact that he can't stay on the floor for whatever reason, with all the distractions that he's provided, he should be the guy too to take some of that pressure off KD. But in the end, it all just seems to just fall on him. And I think that's probably why he wanted to have James Harden there, when they made that trade for him. It was a bad trade looking back, considering all the picks they gave up and the fact they gave up Jared Allen, who's now an all-star, and Karis LeVert, who's, found a pretty nice role in Cleveland. They gave up all this talent and picks for what turned out to be, barely a one-year rental. And it's sad because now KD's just by himself again. And so I think that for him to move on, he's got to find a situation where, like, say, a Phoenix.
I think you just described Toronto.
Well, I was saying Phoenix, because you had Devin Booker there.
Yeah.
In Toronto, depending on what they would be able to hold on to, if they did make a trade.
I feel like Scotty Barnes is probably off the table, but Pascal, based on how he's played, Pascal and some picks, I mean.
Yeah, for me, it'd be hard to give up Pascal.
For Kevin Durant and Scotty Barnes for 1 year.
Well,
1 or 2 years.
Because
I think you can develop Pascal again. I'm not sure you can develop a Scotty Barnes type and what he could still be. I think you can find another Pascal.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it just depends on how desperate the Nets would be and what kind of draft compensation you can provide. I think that may have been probably one of the holdups to getting the deal done this summer. Is that if you're Toronto, you're like, you want to try to keep Pascal and Scotty, and then just say anybody else we can talk about.
It's like, well, then we're hanging up the phone. Like, what are we talking about? It's like, it's Kevin Durant.
Okay. I mean, I understand, but we'll still end up, with a better seed than Brooklyn, and you'll still be, giving.
Besides, got a good bargaining chip. He's like, we're fine. Like, with or without KD, we're fine.
I mean, Scotty, Scotty's going to turn into a star eventually.
Yeah.
He may not be on KD's level, but so I don't know. I think Toronto probably is a good situation. But again, if he goes to Toronto, say you give up a Pascal, who is the young guy there that you can consistently count on to carry?
Fred VanVleet you can count on. I think OG Anunoby, based on this point too. Like,
I'm talking about being the second best player on a championship team.
Scotty's close. Are we sure Scotty can't do it
in his second year? Can he? I don't know. I'm not sure. I would love if it'd be something to consider, but I don't know if I can bank on. Because see, if you trade for Kevin Durant, that means you're there, right? You're saying we're trading for you, so we're trying to win a championship with Kevin Durant because he's 34 years old and he might not be able to play at this level much longer, and so we want to maximize it. And if you're Kevin and you say, "Yeah, I want to go to that team and play there," you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up to be in a winning situation. Because if you fail there, Kevin Durant can't win. He can't lead a team. All that same garbage that you heard, that you've been hearing about, since last year when the Warriors won. So I think.
But on the flip side, you could be like the Kawhi thing, where everyone looks at Kawhi like, no, he did it by himself. Like, Kawhi led the Raptors upset, and he was the guy with a bunch of role players around him. Like, Kyle Lowry's good, but
he was, but Pascal Siakam was there.
Yeah.
And Pascal Siakam had 32 points in the first game.
True.
He roasted Draymond Green in game one, and people may not remember, but like I do, because I was like, this guy Pascal is eating right now, and I think that's the one. That's why I say, like, if you are trying to build a championship team, in Toronto, you want to make sure you have the pieces that you can depend on that can take you there.
Well, build the statue if he only has to give up OG Anunoby and some picks to get Kevin Durant. Because if you're able to keep Siakam and Scotty in some kind of deal and Fred VanVleet, that's a good team.
Yeah, but I mean, like if Kevin, really starts, pushing the envelope and saying,
Mhm.
I need to get out of here, then, what are you left with?
Yeah.
The thing about these deals is, you never wind up getting a return that's suitable.
Yeah.
When you give up a superstar player, you don't, and also someone who's aging.
Yeah.
This is not like you're trading for a 27-year-old or a 30-year-old Kevin Durant. You're trading for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant. And while he's
Mhm.
still phenomenal, he's still getting you numbers and putting up. You saw the limitations in the playoffs when they got
Mhm.
swept. So he needs help if he's going to be able to take your team to a championship. And if you gut your team to get Kevin Durant, he's back where he was in Brooklyn.
Man, when you look at the Clippers, they beat the Lakers last night. They own the Lakers. What is it, like 9 straight that they've beaten the Lakers?
Tyronn Lue's got 9 straight against the
Yeah,
Lakers. Yeah.
that's just incredible. But obviously without Kawhi, we'll see. Very weird
I'm
dialogue
worried.
about
I'm worried
Kawhi.
about. I'm worried about Kawhi.
Yeah, I
Very
think.
worried about Kawhi.
Whew,
Primarily because the injury that he had is usually a year, like 10 months to a year recovery,
mhm.
and like we're 15 months beyond that, and he still can't get out there on the floor. And I remember when he played in the preseason, I was like, I had to like kind of watch him because he looked a little stiff. He looked
Mhm.
like he's always kind of had a smooth, LA guys, their games are always like, I call it the old man game, where it
Huh.
doesn't like they're trying that hard or they're doing that much, but like it's lethal. Like Paul Pierce got the old man game, and James Harden got the old man. It's
And
LA
it's an
guys.
LA thing.
It's an LA thing. It's the way they play.
Why do you think
And
that is?
it's just LA, it's how it is. I don't know. It's late. It's the sun. It's the beach. I don't know. So just how you kind of carry yourself
Have you
down
asked
there.
them about this?
No. But I
Okay.
mean, Russ is from LA, but he don't have an LA game.
No.
He's got a Russ game, right?
Russ is just one, like, you can't
Yeah.
really compare anybody to Russ. Russ
But
is just a different kind of motor.
there's a
Yeah.
couple guys from LA that I would say have an LA game, and I go
Yeah.
back to like an Andre Miller who played.
Yes.
He had an LA game. Like it was like totally in control.
Mhm.
Not playing too fast, just like, just kind of smooth with it.
Mhm.
And so Kawhi, had that, but this time when I watched him in the preseason, I was like, he had the LA game, so he's hitting the mid range and doing all that stuff that you're used to, but it looked like it was in slow motion,
Hmm.
like even slower than it should have been. And so that gives me some concern about what the Clippers can be, because if Kawhi can't be top 5 Kawhi,
Mhm.
if he can't be on that level, then I don't know if we can elevate the Clippers to a championship contender, because even though they have tremendous depth, they got a lot of talent. Paul George is still playing at a high level. You can't win championships without having that truly elite talent. And so if he can't get back to being not just Kawhi, but like Toronto Kawhi,
Mm.
or even the Kawhi he was right before the injury, because
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly feel like
Can he make it 30 games straight in the playoffs? Can he do it?
he did it with Toronto, and the one thing
Yeah.
that this kind of was underplayed during that period is that he was playing with tendonitis in his knee
Mhm.
during that whole playoff run, and so as the series and the games kept building up, it was getting a little harder for him to get through.
Yeah.
But he also knew he was approaching free agency, and if he was able to go in Toronto in 1 year and win a championship,
He
like
was set for life.
I mean, he's a
He's like the
hero. He's a
ultimate
legend.
guy who's benefited from the modern, like, being born when he did, when he was, right? Like, Kawhi is the all-time best case story of like, man, you lucked out so much of when you were born, because if you were born 10 to 15 years ago, you're out of the league at 25 because your body, like, we just ran you into the ground. There's no, like, the
There's no
knee
load
stuff,
management. Yeah.
no load management. It's
Well,
over.
I think he's lucky that he was in San Antonio too.
Yeah.
Because it's not even just the timing; it was the location.
Mhm.
Because he was able to, go to an organization that understood the value of extending careers and making sure you're effective while you're on the floor. Because they had Tim Duncan and was like, we're never going to get another Tim Duncan.
Mhm.
So how do we make sure we get great Tim for as long as we can? And so
Mhm.
you got to load manage them, and and that helps you win a championship in Tim Duncan's 17th year.
Yeah.
With him being a prominent member of a championship team, like, so for all the criticisms that you give to load management, it really benefited the Spurs because they were able to have a very effective Tim Duncan, a great all-time great player, one of the more, to me, underrated great players the game's ever had. They were able to get 19 great years out of him, not just like 12 great years and then 7 years.
Like Larry Bird thing where it's just the back is over and then you're like,
Yeah,
it's just gone. Like
it's
there's no load
gone.
management with this back and
Yeah,
make it dragging this out. It's like, nope, the back's gone. He gave it all.
yeah.
And
Isaiah
that's it.
Thomas, like he
Mhm.
had a great run and then he hit like 32 and it was like, boom, that's it.
Yep.
Like, and I think that organizations know that with the money that they're paying these guys, you got to try to extend their careers. But with Kawhi, though, it's just with all of that, he still has to
And you're
deal with
getting
all the
older. It's not like
injuries.
it's going to get better with age. This is
Yeah,
not one of those things that gets better.
yeah. So I worry about him. I wanted to see him come back and play at that level because I feel like where the Clippers were that year, they could have easily at least reached the finals and possibly won it all if Joe Ingles doesn't run into him because he was just a monster, leading that comeback in that series. And I feel bad for the Clippers just because they've had so much bad luck and it looks like things are kind of turning around and you got this great player in Kawhi and you blow it in the bubble. The next year you come back and you look like you're ready to take it to that next level, and then you lose Kawhi, you lose a whole year to that, and you lose that playoff run to the conference finals without him. Like it's disappointing that they can't seem to get it right.
But it is fun watching John Wall play basketball again. I very much miss John Wall playing basketball and him playing the way he has to this point. It's very encouraging. That's an encouraging sign.
It is, and I've known John, since he came into the league because I covered
Mm-hmm.
him his rookie year, and I know what basketball means to him, and I know how passionate he is about the game, how much he loves the game, how much it means to him, how much he studies the game, watches the game. I mean, ball is life for John Wall, and to
Mm-hmm.
not have it, for most of the last 4 years because of injuries and that whatever that nonsense was in Houston last year. I know he wants to be on the floor. He wants to be relevant and playing again and having fun. So for me to watch him, back, considering all that he's had to overcome the last couple of years, losing his grandmother and mother and, going through depression. And I'm just happy to see him out there having fun again.
We'll end on this. Anthony Davis is a Laker past the trade deadline. Actually, I'm going to throw two out. Anthony Davis and LeBron are Lakers post NBA trade deadline this year.
Well, LeBron he can't be traded.
Oh, I thought it was he had no trade clause, but he actually just can't be
He
traded this
can't
year.
be
He can't be
traded because once he signed that extension, they can't move him at all.
Okay.
So he's stuck for at least this year.
Okay.
AD, I don't know because I don't know what you can get for Anthony Davis right now, and the way he's playing, I wouldn't push the button on the trade until he has at least a 20
speaking of bad
games.
backs,
Yeah, like
don't get better with age.
Can I get a 20-game stretch of you out
Yeah.
there playing at a high level? Like because what the Lakers gave up for him, they're gonna have to try to get some of that back. Got to recoup some of that. And if you're a team that says, okay, we're Anthony Davis away, what are you willing to give up, knowing that he's had back injuries and that he's had all of these injuries that seem to come up, at poor times? I'm not sure. Like, I think the Lakers are in a really tough spot. They're in the worst position that they could possibly be as an organization because there's no hope. There's no chance that they're going to get better because they're a bad team. And this is the worst part of it all. The pick goes to New Orleans.
Yeah.
So even if they wind up winning the lottery, New Orleans is going to have a chance to have Victor Wembanyama and Zion Williamson for the next
I wonder if they keep that, though. That's a lot of young talent and keeping a lot of personalities happy. Like, I don't know if Zion strikes me as the person who's willing to be like, yeah, I'm willing to do a co-star at. That was my biggest thing with Trey. When you brought in DeJounte Murray, I was like, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I am saying that Trey Young is very happy being the center of attention and being the guy that everything runs through. And it's just a huge change.
We're talking about different levels of player here.
Yes.
And we're talking about how you got a 7'3" kid who
True.
Can step out and shoot threes and stretch the floor.
I mean, Zion's just special in a different way.
Everything Zion does is right at the rim. So they wouldn't get in each other's way. And all they would do is just elevate each other. And it would, I don't know. I don't want to wish the worst on the Lakers and see them,
Yeah.
you know,
You don't have it's not
have
even
that
wishing,
worst
it's
case
just there's no
scenario.
path. It's kinda like what you laid
Yeah,
out. It's like
but
there's no
there,
path.
I think that the issue that the Lakers have is that even if you trade Anthony Davis, the return, I don't believe it'll be like it'd be worse than say trying to get a Kevin Durant trade done, because there's so many questions about what he really is going to be going forward. Because people, I mean, he's like a year or two older than like Giannis and
Mhm.
Embiid. Like you don't think of him being that young, but he's right there with them,
Yeah.
in terms of being a young guy who should be playing at that MVP level. This should be Anthony Davis's time. Like this should
Mhm.
be the time that he's dominating. He's 29. Like he should be, a force in the league. You shouldn't be somebody you're talking about trading, not because because you don't want him anymore. Like that shouldn't be
Mhm.
the case. And the fact that he's in this position, it just lets you know how bad the Lakers have mismanaged their time with him and LeBron. You had two of the top 75 players, two of the greatest players of all time on your roster. And yeah, you got a championship in the bubble, but since then, you haven't done anything right to make sure that you can, maximize the time that you have with them. And it's shameful, because as Laker fans, they deserve better, right? If you have those two guys, you deserve better. You deserve to build a team that that can win a championship. And they just made so many mistakes, getting rid of young players before their time, making bad trades, trading guys who were essential part of your locker room, cutting them, doing whatever, just not really valuing, what goes into building a team. And now you're just throwing slop out there. And it's been so bad that now you're in a position where should we trade Anthony Davis when that just to me, I just go back to Laker management and just how they've totally botched it with LeBron and having LeBron. You have a LeBron and AD on your team and you can't win. And you got Russell Westbrook, who you shouldn't have traded for in the first place, but he's still a really good player.
Doing great stuff off the bench.
But
That's it. Like,
none of the
and
none of
Pat
the
Bev's been
pieces fit.
awful. Like, I don't know what happened
Yeah,
to Pat Bev in LA,
I mean,
but
I think they're gonna have a point where they're gonna have to just just blow it up.
yeah. Can we
It's just
flip Pat Bev and D'Lo? Can we just go ahead and flip those two? Let's get D'Lo back in LA and flip Pat Bev where he belongs in Minnesota.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if that trade doesn't sound too exciting for
D'Lo's
me.
days are not long for
Yeah, if I'm
Minnesota.
Minnesota, I would need a more traditional point guard. I don't know if I need Pat Bev,
Did
but
you see
because
the D'Lo not be on the floor? Oh my god,
yeah,
what
he
is
didn't
going
realize
on?
that he was supposed to substitute at that point.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Minnesota is not they should be more fun than they are,
Yeah.
but that's
They're
another
my
conversation for
most
another
wrong
day.
team, I think, from the preseason. I had them winning, being the number one seed in the West, where I was like, I don't know what they're going to be in the Western Conference like playoffs, but with the upside of Anthony Edwards, who I think is going to be the best player in basketball in the next 2 years, I still think that's coming.
Yeah,
And you look at Edwards, and I was like, the leap's still coming with him, and what we saw in the playoffs, and just where he's going. Cat, Gobert, with their
I thought they were too quick to do the Gobert
I just thought
trade.
they were too old. Like Gobert raised their regular season ceiling so much where I'm like, they're just going to gobble up so many regular season wins. Kind of like what the Nuggets have done with Jokic and company, where I'm like, I don't know if they'll ever get to the finals, but that roster looks like a regular season juggernaut to me.
I just didn't like the trade because I thought they gave
Yeah.
up too much for Rudy, and I don't know if he was the piece that's gonna take you to that next level. I just didn't see him as the missing piece. When I
Yeah.
watched them lose to Memphis last year in the playoffs, I wasn't sitting there saying, "Man, if only they had Rudy
Mm-hmm.
Gobert, this series would be much different." No,
Yeah.
I thought that they needed, um, just they need to let Anthony Edwards grow.
Yeah.
Like he should be their best player. Cat should be playing off of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of see what other pieces you can add around them. But those two guys have to be at the forefront of what you're building, especially Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. I don't see him. I didn't like the pairing of him and Cat. I didn't think it was a
Mm-hmm.
good pairing because then you put Cat in a bad position where he has to guard the perimeter, and he does not. I mean, he's nimble, but not that nimble. Like he's not like Anthony Davis on defense. A young Anthony Davis who could move around and guard five positions. You know, he runs around. Like you can fake him out quickly, and that was just a mistake. I'm not. I mean, maybe they could turn it around. They're not at the total bottom, but I don't. I think their upside was diminished by that trade more so than then take it to a higher level. So, but back to your original question, I think eventually the Lakers are going to have to trade him and Russ. It's just I think they got to at least go for a while, because then you're just going to have LeBron out there in a much worse situation than he was.
We're going to see LeBron shut it down. We're already seeing like little signs that the leg and everything else. LeBron is getting ready to do a college tour with Bronny and go to Oregon, and you'll see LeBron at all these different colleges checking out different universities.
He's got to break Kareem's record first. So I think that if you're the Lakers,
that would be hilarious though. If he waits till right then, and the next day it's like LeBron's having season ending.
I mean, there's a chance. I mean, what's this? Is he supposed to break it in like January or so?
Yeah, it's January.
So if he breaks the record right before the trade deadline, he could get Kareem's record. And then it's like, all right, LeBron, what do you want to do the rest of the year? It's like, all right, I got the record.
Yeah.
I can shut it down. Y'all can trade 80 and then and Russ, and then you rebuild, and then we'll talk about next year and what we do in the off season. But for now, let me get the record with these guys here, and then we'll discuss where everybody else gets moved. Because if you're a team trying to trade for AD, his value couldn't be any lower than it is right now, and maybe by January, he might, pique somebody's interest, or maybe there might be a desperation from some other organizations. Like, you know what, we got to roll the dice and just go for it. So it's early, but who knows what happens? Yeah, once LeBron gets that record, I think everything's on the table.
LeBron's too smart. Where I think he knows. I told people on this program like 2 years ago where I was like, I think LeBron's already played his last important NBA game. And I think deep down he knows that like he got it out of AD, the back stuff. LeBron knows the body stuff. LeBron knows what he can get out of this roster. He knew after the Westbrook trade and that was going, he's like, oh, we're out of assets. Like he saw it in Miami where at the end he was like, okay, they've run out of moves to make. Like I can only do so much. I've maximized my time. He sees 8 pieces ahead. Like he knows where things are going. And there was a reason he's brought up the Bronny stuff so much, I think, and playing with him is I really think LeBron is at peace with his MVPs, with the titles, because I think he also knows that he'll never be the best player on another title team. I think he looks at all of this of like, whatever happens, happens. I'm doing movies, I'm directing, I've got my hand in all these different things. But ultimately, like my kids are about to leave the nest. Like I've got Bronny getting ready to go to college. You got Bryce, who looks like he's the better of the two. Like he's going to be getting a lot of college visits, and he'll have to monitor like how that works with NIL and people. He just strikes me as a family guy dad who is ready to transition to that part of his life. And when he gets to play with Bronny, that's it. I think he's at peace. And I looked at it and I'm like, I think LeBron knows that this is all ending, and that he was joking about with one of the Lakers reporters last night. They're like 2-9, tough stop, and he's like, "Yeah, you think it's tough?" Yeah, and you look at, but he's saying with a smile. He's not mad. Like the vibe I get from LeBron, he's not mad. I think he's at peace with everything.
I don't know. I have to disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Primarily because one thing that I can say is that I have mistakenly bet against LeBron a couple times and come away looking pretty foolish for it. One time when he was down 3-1 against the Warriors, I thought they were done. The other time was when they lost into 2018. And, I was in 2016, I thought they were going to, go down in 5, right? Yeah. I mean, they probably should have if Draymond didn't get suspended, but that's another conversation. But and then 2018, I said that I wrote a column that basically said that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant were going to be the reason why LeBron went another title, because Kyrie left him and KD's going to keep winning. And then go this first year in LA, it was sort of easy to assume that he was just there. The Hollywood lifestyle was just going to take over, and he wasn't really trying to win. But LeBron doesn't really think that way. I mean, he knows how to play the game and try to, you see how he gets caught lying a lot, in terms of like what he likes to share, because he likes to be every man there, everybody, and sort of, and he wants to come across as humble to some people, but that guy, he's a really intense competitor, and I don't think that he would step out on the floor without thinking that, one, I'm the best player on the court. He still believes that, even if he's like, I'm limited and I can't do what I used to do. I don't think he can admit it to himself that he's not that guy, and I think that part of the reason why AD probably wasn't able to take the reins in LA is because he still knows that LeBron doesn't see himself as the second wheel and never will.
Yeah.
When you're that great and when you've been in this position that he's been in for 20 years, you can't mentally check out to be something else. Think about Michael Jordan when he was 40 years old and
Yeah.
he was playing and he was old. You think he went to Washington thinking that he was going to be playing second fiddle to anybody?
But do you think they're wired the same? You think LeBron and MJ are wired the same like that?
I think he's wired in that way more than we want to give him credit.
Hmm.
I think it's a convenient storyline to say he's not wired the way MJ is.
I don't think it's negative when people say that. Like they use that as a slight at LeBron. I don't think it's a slight. I think
it's not.
okay.
I mean, he definitely has a different mentality.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the same. I mean, Jordan is much more ruthless with it.
Yeah.
But I still think that LeBron's an incredible competitor. You're not in position to be the all-time leading scorer. This record has been standing for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in position to be a guy who could potentially retire with 40,000 career points, 10,000 rebounds, and 10,000 assists. You're going to be a career triple quintuple, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's going for.
Mm-hmm.
He's going for a triple quintuple, which has never been done. Like you can't.
But those are all individual stats, though, right? Like he's looking at it, like checking those boxes before the end, before Father Time catches him. I don't think he's checking the championship boxes anymore.
I don't think that's. I think he knows that this team isn't good enough.
Yeah, and he's not though, right? So then at the very least, he's looking at age 39 is when he's able to like play a meaningful finals game because he turns 38 in December. So if he can't get traded till the next year, then he's looking at turning 39, and then we're just like, it's one thing to be the quarterback in Tom Brady and be playing in your mid 40s and being at the elite level, and winning a Super Bowl in your 40s. We haven't seen that in the NBA ever. We haven't seen the best player on a title team be 39 years old. We've never seen.
I think when you reach the point and you play on really bad teams, you find other ways to motivate yourself. He does still have a record to chase. That gives him a purpose for this season. But I have a hard time thinking that he's not wondering how I can get a championship before it's all said and done while I'm still here. Because winning one in LA ain't enough. Even though he won that championship, he never had a parade in LA.
Yeah.
That wasn't his fault. That was COVID's fault. But he still has never had a parade in LA.
Well, you know who he's texting then. You know what's happening here. And this was something I said a year and a half ago that I still think is a possibility. The extension kind of clouds it a little bit, Michael. But James Jones, his close friend, GM of the Suns, obviously CP. I always thought that he would eventually, like once the Ayton contract got made, like whenever that was, when Ayton got paid, that was what they were waiting on, is LeBron playing the 5 to end his career as a center, gets to play with Chris Paul for the first time at the end, gets to go with James Jones right out into the sunset with Devin Booker, who he would respect and love, the scoring, what he would provide there. And he's durable. Ayton for LeBron this summer would not surprise me whatsoever if that's how he ended it.
I don't know if that's how it goes, but I do think that in his mind, he is already calculating the next move.
Yeah.
He's calculating what can I do to win the championship? Because see what we didn't realize in 2018, like he knew that the run in Cleveland was over. But he already knew that when he goes to LA, what are they gonna do? I'm gonna get AD here. Like I'm coming, like I already know I can get AD here. We're gonna make sure that. And what did AD do? Acted a plum fool that year, in New Orleans. Quit on that team so he could get traded to LA.
But he was right, because no one remembers that. It's just us who remembers this stuff. It's just us and then Pelicans fans. But everyone else just forgets. He's like, y'all will forget. I don't care. Like none of this matters.
But I'm saying, like, LeBron was already plotting. So while this season is lost, I do not believe for a second that he's not plotting a way to win a championship. And he knows exactly what I just said. You got to find a young guy to latch on to. It's sort of, and I use this, I'm giving you this analogy, but like it goes back to like, you heard of Miles Davis, the jazz musician, right?
Oh, I listen to him all the time. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Miles is this: every stage of Miles's career, he would always hire the young, fresh musicians to work with. One, because it helped him creatively, and he would be able to figure out new ways to kind of play his music, and and then two, he would catch on to the new trends, and so he would be hip to it. But he'd latch himself to these younger artists, and it would keep him relevant because he would be able to never really be obsolete because he would be on to the new style. LeBron is like that. Like look at every step of his career. Once he started, building his teams, he went to Wade, who's not younger, but he knew like that's what I needed to sort of win championships.
And Bosh, who was younger, yeah.
Yeah. So, but he got with them, and then boom. Then he got to Cleveland. He got Kyrie, and he had Kevin Love. They're both younger guys who could carry some of that weight for him. He could still be at the forefront and lead the way, but those younger guys are gonna have to carry him too. And then he goes to LA. He gets AD, and he's like, okay, that's the young guy that can carry him on the nights that he can't do it, or he's the guy that can elevate the ship, right? I can still get my numbers, but now we're actually got a dude that can protect the rim and do all the other stuff, and defensively, and turn take us to another level on that end. So in his mind, he's thinking, where can I go, or what can I get to make sure I am still playing for championships? Because I don't think for a second that LeBron is done playing in his mind. He is not done.
We got to get him on the program and just give him some truth here and be like, LeBron, honestly, Michael and I disagree on this. We need to see. We need the final answer. How are you feeling about it? And then
that's what I got. I don't believe that he's content with 4 rings and 4 MVPs. I don't believe he's content with that. I think he wants more, and that's just how he's built. And he wouldn't have the numbers that he has if he was just somebody who would just get complacent. I just don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't.
We'll see what happens. I mean, this is why they play the games and why time passes, and we can see how this ultimately goes. But I think it's going to be fascinating nonetheless to see how the last couple of years of LeBron's career wind up. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be as just like Kobe's was sad, where you're like, oh, this is just bad, and he's just going to retire with a bad Lakers team, and it's just going to be it.
Again, Lakers.
Yeah.
Just poor management.
It was a bad contract at the end, and it was just like it just crippled the team, and that was it.
They made it a bad contract.
Yeah.
Because they didn't try to get him what he needed at his advanced age. And again, he was somebody that wasn't willing to defer.
Yeah.
I mean, they thought it would be Dwight, but Dwight had a bad back. And in theory, that would have been what kept his championship window going. But Dwight didn't work out because he was kind of damaged goods by the time he got there. But then after they got Dwight left, they were screwed, and they didn't build the team the way they could have. They didn't trade Powell as soon as they should have to try to give Kobe something, his last leg, and they're repeating it with LeBron. They're not giving him enough to make him championship relevant. So eventually, I think he will have to ask out. But he trust me, he's already plotting what his next move is going to be. That's what I believe, just from watching him for 20 years. That's the guy that I've been able to see.
Michael, this has been fantastic. I greatly appreciate you making the time for the program today. What can the good folks check out from you over at the Washington Post, or anything else that you would like to plug before we wrap up here?
Well, I mean, we've been working hard on this Black Coaches project called Blackout, that's sort of examining the NFL's treatment of Black coaches and their inability to advance to different levels. So I'm still working on that series, and I have a couple of NBA stories that I'm working on. I just haven't had a chance to dive in as much as I used to. So, but yeah, the Blackout Project, I'll be dropping a couple stories soon, I hope, and people can be enlightened about the journey of Black coaches through the NFL.
Awesome. Check that out. Subscribe, Washington Post, if you've not already done so. Won't miss it. I'm excited to read it. Michael, thank you so much for making the time, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me on, man, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.